Welcome to HB Reddit Stories. Today we will see stories of r/am I the a-hole? Am I the a-hole for accidentally ruining my autistic boyfriend's safe food? My boyfriend loves stew, he wants to eat it every day for every meal. His favorite stew is beef tips and vegetables from a local place, but it's really expensive. Like $47 for a big bowl. They don't do small orders for takeout, and he is grossed out by leftovers, so more than half of it gets wasted. We've had a couple of arguments about it. He says I don't understand his brain, I say he doesn't understand our budget. Recently I looked up some recipes, including doing a dissection of the takeout soup, and tried my hand at making a home-cooked replacement for stew night. He loved it for a few days, and then one night he was hanging out with me in the kitchen and saw me put tomato paste into the pot. He was really upset and demanded that I make the soup without the paste. I told him it wouldn't taste the same, and he said it would be better because he hates tomatoes, they're not a safe food for him. So I made the soup with no tomato paste, and big surprise, something felt off about it to him. Instead of admitting that the tomato paste was necessary, he threw a fit and told me he didn't want home-cooked food anymore if I was going to play with him and not take his safe food seriously. He thinks I changed more than just the tomato paste in an effort to get him to admit he was wrong. $400 in stew orders later, I had an idea to ask the chef when we were picking up the order if there was any tomato products in the stew, and lo and behold, there is tomato in the recipe, effing tomato paste. In my mind this was great because I thought he would get over it if he knew his original perfect stew had tomato paste. Like, oh, I guess tomato paste isn't so bad then, but it was the exact opposite. He walked out of the restaurant without saying anything and then refused to eat the stew that night and hasn't ordered it again, and he's been ignoring me while sulking around the house, using his whiny voice a lot, and slamming things. His sister also texted me to tell me I'm a selfish a-hole for needing to get back at him by taking his favorite food away. I literally just wanted to stop spending insane amounts of money on stew. I wasn't trying to hurt him or ruin his life. I'm not autistic, I can't really wrap my head around caring this much about a single ingredient. I genuinely didn't see this reaction coming. We've been together for 4 years and he's only had 3 other fits like this. The other ones were pretty reasonable. Those were also a little less intense and didn't include input from his family. This is the first time anyone in his family has ever spoke to me like this. So I've been back and forth between y'all are overreacting and what have I done? Am I the a-hole? It sounds so dumb when I write it all out, but living it has made me feel physically sick with regret. I can't think straight anymore. Edited to add, I'm getting ready for work right now, so I can't respond to individual comments, but there's some recurring confusion/questions I wanted to clear up because it might affect the answers. 1. The stew place is a catering place with a mini restaurant, so every time we order takeout we're ordering a catering amount pretty much. It's not stew made of gold, lol. 2. We order from there 2 to 3 nights a week. It's not the only thing he eats, it's just the top 5 foods for him. He doesn't eat this unreasonably every single day. 3. He has a job and contributes with money. I'm not funding his entire diet. We do mix money, so even though he pays for the meal half the time, it does still feel like we're losing money. He works part-time and I work full-time. Bills are probably split 70 to 30. Top comments. I don't believe this is a question of a-hole behavior or not. You are an absolute angel for dealing with this for so long. Relationships have their quirks and struggles. Finances and budgets can be a huge one, no matter what. When in-laws get involved, the quick and easy response for me is always, when you start contributing to paying our bills, then you get to start contributing to our financial conversations. Essentially, this is what is happening when your BF's family is getting involved. They are sticking their nose in your business. If you take the autism out of the equation, this is just a fight about budgeting better. If you throw it back in there, they clearly dealt with his safe food issues his entire life and consider it your turn now. $47 per meal and not eating leftovers is a one-way ticket to homelessness. Reckless spending on a food item you can clearly make yourself. Bravo to you for doing it at home to save the money. Autistic spectrum is tough. Sensory sensitivity, food issues, social missteps, and just so many other areas of concern. You've been in a relationship for 4 years, so you clearly understand this struggle. It won't get any better with him. Him moping and whiny voice acting out will probably fade with time. The question for you to answer is whether you see this as a relationship-ending fight or a bump in the road. Do you see a future with him? Getting married and having children isn't the answer for everyone, but if it is on your radar, that's the question, and not if you're an a-hole for ruining Stu. Not the a-hole. Just because he is autistic doesn't mean he can't get used to the idea of tomato sauce. I'm autistic too and have ARFID. I got therapy and now I'm not scared of any new food anymore. He can work on this. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to give up my seat on the plane so a boy could sit next to his father, and to tell the father to behave himself? So basically I, 29M, boarded my short flight, 70 minutes, which has a 2-to-2 seating arrangement. I had booked myself a window seat, and when I got there I saw a maybe 7-year-old boy sitting in there, next to his father, about 50 years old, in the aisle seat. The opposite row also had his mother and his sister sitting there. Although this happened less than 24 hours ago, I was exhausted, so I don't remember the conversation word for word. I pointed towards my seat and the father asked me if I would mind swapping so they could sit together, and that their seat is in the row behind it. I said that I would only swap if it is a window seat, and he said it is an aisle seat. Then I said I wouldn't swap, and the following conversation happened. Him: so do you want to sit next to my son? Me: I don't care, I just want the window seat. Him, standing up and getting his son up: you are a very nice person. I mean, not a very nice person. Me: it's none of your business and be polite. Him: I am not, referring to polite. Me: I said something I don't remember, and behave yourself. I just stood there looking at him serious. I think he was trying to shame me initially, but he didn't respond anything else to that. His wife was watching this the whole time. When somebody in the row behind saw it, he offered to swap and sat next to me, so they did eventually sit next to each other. For all I care, they could have sat 20 rows apart or even booked a new flight. I had zero investment in this or their reasons. They can ask, I can say no, and that should be the end of it in my opinion. I didn't like they basically pulled a fait accompli when trying to swap with me. If they care that much, they can book their seats in advance like everyone else. I didn't have a good reason why I need the window seat except that I like it and don't like the aisle seat, lol. Edit. I used to read all those posts where people said they didn't expect this to blow up. Well, I thought I'd get like a dozen answers. But almost 2 million views in 24 hours is crazy, lol. Many people are wondering why I'm insisting on a window seat. I like to look out, but mainly if I need a nap that is unlikely to happen if I can't rest my head against the window. Other than that, I hate aisle seats a lot, equally if not more than middle seats. People and the drinks trolley keep bumping into you. I don't understand why anyone would choose to sit there. It takes the trolley bumping into you once to change your mind. Top comments. Not the a-hole. If they wanted the seat, they should have booked it together. This same thing happened to me on the way home from Thanksgiving at my sister's on Amtrak. I like the window seat, so if there's one, I sit there, and I realize this is a little different, because unless it's Amtrak business class, which you can reserve, it's first come, first serve. It was an hour-and-a-half train ride. This girl and her boyfriend board the train, I'm in my window seat, and the aisle seat is empty. Also, the aisle seat next to my aisle seat was also empty with the person next to them in the window. So they could have sat aisle/aisle and still been next to each other. Anyway, the girlfriend says to me, "Excuse me, and if this isn't okay, it's fine, but would you mind finding another seat so he and I can sit together?" I politely said, "No, sorry, I want to sit here." She actually looked a little shocked. But one of them sat next to me in the aisle, and the other one sat in the aisle seat across from us. At the next stop, both of the people behind me got off, so the two of them quickly switched, grabbed those two, and were able to sit together. The boyfriend sat behind me, and promptly kicked the back of my seat hard, about 3 times. Gee, what happened to, if it's not okay, it's fine. I ignored him, I figured the absolute best way to retaliate was to not acknowledge his childishness that he and his lady love had to sit less than a foot away from each other till the next stop. People are just jerks when they don't get what they want. You did nothing wrong. You booked your seat, and just because he wanted it doesn't make him in the right. I fly 40 to 50 flights a year and I see this all the time, and it is always entitled parents with kids. Just because they don't know how to book a flight doesn't give them a license to inconvenience anyone else on the plane. I used to give in to these requests, but then a few years ago I simply stopped, and now I do exactly as you did and just tell them to follow the rules like everyone else. You are definitely not the a-hole, you are just another tired traveler who did everything the right way, and you should be rewarded for that by getting your window seat. Next story. Am I the a-hole? My wife is super pissed off. I have been married for 5 years with my wife, who I've met nearly 10 years ago. The thing is, she loves traveling. A lot. And she loves traveling on the date of her birthday. Last year we went to Maceió, Brazil, and had a great time. In May we had a month-long travel to Europe, where we visited some Greek island, Athens, a bunch of Spanish cities and Paris. Her birthday is in a few days and we had some long talks about traveling. Europe left us in debt, and some health issues left us with almost no savings. Also, we want to have children this year and we need some medical assistance for that also costs money. I told her that, maybe this year we cannot afford to travel anywhere. She didn't like it but she agreed. But it turns out a few days ago, she snapped. She is now super angry because she is staying home for her birthday, that it doesn't matter what we discussed. She never said she don't want to travel, and that me, as her husband, should know what she wants for her birthday and should have known that she wanted to travel either way, and surprised her with some tickets. I really don't know how to defuse the situation. I offered to buy some last-minute tickets anywhere, but now she doesn't want because she said I'd just be doing it because she forced me. Am I an a-hole? Top comments. Not the a-hole. How does she propose finding the money to travel? Also, maybe you don't have the money right now for month-long vacations thousands of kilometers away, but maybe, if you have the money, you could talk about traveling a few days in your country or the country next to yours. Not the a-hole, she just sounds spoiled. I'd love to hear her side of the story because surely, as a grown adult at her big age, she wouldn't be sulking like this. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my coworker why customers might not like her? I work at a restaurant as a server. One of my coworkers moved up here from Georgia for college and started working here a few months ago. She constantly lays on the southern charm thing thick. She calls everyone honey and sweetie and all of that. She also tends to chit-chat with people instead of just letting them eat after bringing them their food or drinks. It's also kind of obvious that a lot of them don't want to really talk to her. They give one-word answers and she just barrels forward and talks at them. Management has told her off more than once for this. About 2 weeks ago she was upset because a customer yelled at her and said, "Don't call me that," when she called her honey, and she complains that she's not getting as many tips as the other servers. She says it's because she has a southern accent and customers think she's stupid, but I don't think that's the case. She asked me for advice, and I said it's because she takes so long to bring things out and wastes time trying to make small talk. I also said that the excessive pet names sound kind of condescending, and they aren't really something you would call a stranger here. She told me that she wasn't going to start being rude to customers because she would make even less money. I told her it's not being rude, it's just how things work here, and it's rude to other customers she's supposed to be serving when she spends all her time trying to make small talk instead of doing her job and calling them weird things. Now she's mad and has been avoiding me. Maybe I could have been gentler when trying to explain why people complain about her, but I was also really stressed because it's Christmas season and so much is going on. Am I the a-hole? Top comments. Not the a-hole. Bit of a culture clash going on here. You've tried to help her fit in better with the locals and your boss has done the same. But she isn't listening to either of you. Not the a-hole. If you are in the Northeast, ESP New York or New England, she really needs to listen to you because we hate small talk. Her tips are only going to get worse. Not the a-hole she should listen to you, who actually knows how people are around wherever you are. You're just trying to help. I'm from the north and had to learn to be okay with the southern hospitality pet names when I moved south. Up there those can be fightin' words. If she doesn't change she can expect complaints and possibly her job. Not the a-hole. Next story. Am I the a-hole for getting engaged after my brother's wedding? My brother and his now wife got married 3 days ago. A very small destination ceremony, under 15 people total. My now fiancé and I extended our trip after everyone went home and spent a couple of days exploring the Grand Canyon, a couple hours north of the wedding, where he proposed. When I shared the news with my brother and now sister-in-law, he responded with hostility, saying that it looked like we were competing. I apologized, quickly realizing that he was advocating for my sister-in-law and that she felt hurt, although I'm truly failing to understand why. I also texted her a separate apology and explained that it was not our intent to encroach and just wanted to share the news with family and that it's my belief that there's room for happiness for everyone. She did not respond. In response to my apology, my brother doubled down and said the timing and location were hurtful and that we shouldn't plan around the wedding. Top comments. Not the a-hole. And I can see you're trying valiantly to understand, but I'm not sure your brother or his wife will be able to give you a good reason for their reaction. 'Cause their reaction is wild. Sure, it's rude to propose at someone else's wedding, but that's not what happened. The fact that you and your fiancé got engaged a few days after their wedding, before you flew home, is a totally different thing. Also, the level of hostility in that message from your brother is nasty and definitely not normal. I'm so sorry that he treats you like that. Not the a-hole. Your brother needs to calm down. The bride gets a day, her one wedding day. She does not get a location, a week, or anything else. She gets her wedding. That is all. You did not encroach. Not the a-hole. You were proposed to days after the wedding while exploring the state the wedding was in, and several hours away from the wedding site, and also this wedding was an elopement. I get that eloping has changed definitions from essentially marrying in secret and private, to generally a small planned wedding. But she's throwing a tantrum as if this were an all-expense-paid luxury wedding in a rented locale and that you were proposed to the same evening as the wedding, steps away from said wedding and announced it in front of everyone. Next story. Am I the a-hole for leaving my dad's birthday dinner after overhearing my sister's comment about my miscarriage? A few months ago me, 28F, and my sister, Eva, 33F, realized that we were both pregnant. I'd say she was about 6 weeks further than I was. She's been struggling with infertility, so we were all happy for her. I have an older son, 2M, with my husband, 32M. Sadly, a couple weeks ago I lost my baby. We told my family. They were all supportive, but I did sort of pull away from them. They would have tried to avoid discussing Eva's baby around me, but I didn't want to overshadow her, especially since she's wanted this for a long time. I also didn't want to be reminded of my own loss whenever I saw her. So I haven't been to my parents' place for Sunday dinner since, or really spent time with Eva, which we had been doing a lot before. I replied vaguely to any messages about my absence. Wasn't the best communication from me. Yesterday my parents were hosting family dinner for my dad's birthday. I'd been thinking about going because I missed my family, and while of course the pain of losing my child has not faded, I'm at a point where I can at least put it a little to the side to be there for my sister and my new niece, when she is born. So I let my family know that we would be coming. However, we had to get a gift for my dad, and then my son had a bit of a tantrum, so we got to my parents' place about an hour late. I wished my dad and then went to the kitchen, where my mom, Eva, and my sister-in-laws were. But before I went in, I heard them say my name, so I stopped. My mom was saying something like, "Well, I guess, OP's not coming," and Eva said, "What did you expect? She probably changed her mind and is just staying home again." Honestly, I'm sorry for her, but you would think she was the first woman to ever lose a kid. And it's not even her first kid. They then kept talking about other things, but I just wanted to leave. I went and got my husband, who was with my brother-in-law, dad, and brothers in the living room. I told my dad I was really sorry but we needed to go. They all protested, but my husband could see how upset I was so he didn't. We got my son and left. When we got home, I just kind of cried for a while. My husband asked me what happened and I told him. He was angry that she said that, but thought we shouldn't have abruptly left because my dad had been looking forward to seeing us, and my son missed his cousins. After this, I was feeling conflicted. Later my brother texted me saying my dad had been really upset about us leaving and brought it up at dinner, which caused a whole fight because Mom and Eva realized that I must have heard them talking, and my dad was mad about it. My brother said that it was pretty bad and he wished I had just stayed so none of it would have happened. Obviously Eva didn't mean for me to hear that, they were all just frustrated that I'd been AWOL for so long. Now I feel bad, because I didn't mean to ruin dinner. Obviously what Eva said was hurtful, but I can see how my actions might have led to her saying something out of anger, and I could have talked to her about it later instead of just leaving. I don't know, am I the a-hole? Edited to add for additional context. My family is the type to just drop by at each other's places and see one another multiple times throughout the week besides just Sunday dinner. Lately I've been kind of fielding off any requests for people to visit. I just want to emphasize how close my family is and how abnormal it is for me to not be seeing them regularly even for a little bit. I haven't been ghosting them, but I just text them saying I'm not feeling up to it for dinner and kind of leave it there. My sister and my mom have always been closer to each other, as have me and my dad. Additionally, my brothers are closer to her since they're all closer in age. I mentioned this in a comment, but we didn't text anyone saying we were going to be late since my family is usually pretty lax about time. Me and my husband usually show up early though, so it's unusual for us to be late and might have been why they thought we weren't coming. Also my son was continuing to be a handful all the way there, so that kept us busy and we kind of didn't think about notifying anyone. I've started looking into grief counseling, now that I feel like I can at least talk about it. As far as she's told us, my sister hasn't had a miscarriage before, she just had trouble getting pregnant to begin with. From what my brother told me, my sister and mom didn't admit to saying anything, they just kind of looked at each other once my dad mentioned me leaving, and he noticed and asked about it. Then one of my sister-in-laws who was also in the kitchen, my other brother's wife, mentioned what they said and my dad got mad. My other brother was also apparently angry with them and it just turned into my mom and sister trying to defend themselves, my dad and other brother yelling, and my brother, who texted me, trying to stay out of it. Top comments. Grief has no time limit. Recovery from a miscarriage sucks because hormones, pain, and suffering emotionally. The fact that your family thinks you needed to seemingly suck it up and get over it is ridiculous. So no, you weren't wrong from taking time in dealing with your loss. Sounds like that they are more focused on your sister finally getting pregnant and they want you to do the same. It's like, how dare you make your miscarriage about yourself, don't you know your sister's pregnant? So your sister who has struggled with infertility finally gets pregnant and decides that a miscarriage is NBD because it happens all the time and you already have a kid? Your brother is upset because the family fight wouldn't have happened if you just sucked it up and stayed? No consequence for your mom and sister? I'm sorry, but hell no. Not the a-hole. Ask your sister if she remembers not being able to get pregnant and ask her to imagine what she would have done if she overheard you saying she probably is staying home again. You know she isn't the first woman to suffer infertility. She can always adopt if she wants a kid so bad. Yeah, your sister likely dreaded being around pregnant women and babies because of her struggles, even if she wasn't vocal about it, but now that she is pregnant and now the only pregnant sister, she thinks she can look down and judge you? Imagine if it was reversed. I bet your family would be having her over for dinner and asking you to stay home because you were pregnant and it was too hard for her. I'm sorry, but she is a selfish jerk and I wouldn't accept any apology she gives, if she does. Remember, she isn't sorry because she was wrong for what she said, she is sorry she got caught saying it. And your family is wrong for blaming you for being rightfully upset because your sister faced the consequence of voicing her thoughts out loud. Jesus Christ. What is wrong with your family? It's been weeks since you lost your baby. Weeks. You missed, what, 2 or 3 Sunday dinners, and this is how your mother and sister speaks of you? Then your brother wishes to rug sweep it all. Your family is clearly ridiculously non-confrontational, considering how it's been conditioned into you and your brother, because I would have stepped into that room immediately after hearing something so vile and told my father exactly why I was leaving. However, I understand that it was shocking, so I don't blame you for just leaving as opposed to breaking down or making a scene there. Even your husband is acting like you should have played along in those circumstances. Not the a-hole OP, but my lord, you're related to some troglodytes. Edit, you need to sit down and talk to your dad. He's on the right side of this, but even so I don't believe he got the full story. There's no way they would own up to saying that. Your closest people should support you, not talk behind your back when you are not there. People grieve differently, they should have been happy that you are at the stage you are ready to socialize. Not the a-hole for me, just crappy situation for your dad, as he had no part in this and it was his birthday. Give him a call, meet up just with him and have an honest talk. Don't ghost him, and the rest of the people who didn't participate in the stupid talking. Mother and sister need to think about their stupid gossip talk. Regardless if it was your first child or not. I hope you guys like this video. If you did, make sure like, comment, share and subscribe the channel HB Reddit Stories.